This is Jim Williams, and the course I'm going to teach is called Should Political Leaders Control Our History? Every nation has witnessed up and down, high and low points in its history. Nations like the Soviet Union, for example, can look back to the heroism of so many people and people who died, 30 million in World War II. But at the same time, they have to look at things like the dictatorship of Joseph Stalin and the number of civilians that he killed during his reign in gulags and executions. So there's a good and bad in all. Modern historians try to look at the good and bad of the past. They examine people, groups, decisions, events, and they try to put them in context. Um, what did people know at the time? What did they believe? What were the broad trends that were going on during that period? So historians try to provide a complex look at the past, not a one-sided one and not a simple one. And sometimes that gets controversial. Political leaders, on the other hand, whether they are elected, appointed, a monarch chosen by family, or a dictator who takes power by force, they all, as political leaders, see the importance of history in maintaining their power and their legitimacy. History is a very powerful weapon, and they try to shape history to justify their role, their views, and their policies. So there's always going to be a conflict between historians who look back to the past and look at details, look at original documents, and try to interpret things, and political leaders who have their own agenda and try to shape history. And you can trace that back over 400 years, really, since the beginning of printed book histories that became available to more than a few people in society, going back to probably the early 15 and 1600s. In this course, we're going to examine examples of this conflict in the past and in the present. Um, how did the outcome of the Civil War and the way it was interpreted influence our history and our public policy, for example? And this is something that comes down to the present. Um, we're still debating things like should we have an exhibit at Independence Hall in Philadelphia that discusses George Washington and his treatment of the slaves that he owned and kept in Philadelphia during his presidency? Should there be statues to Black leaders, along with people like Robert E. Lee on Monument Avenue in Richmond? And probably happen most currently, should American military bases be named for Confederate generals? So these are some of the issues we're going to talk about, and we're going to try to go back to the beginning and where they came from. So I hope you'll join me in this examination of history, historians, and political leaders. Thank you.